Well, thank you for joining us. I am really, really pleased to welcome back Dr. Marlene Siegel, a specialist with pets. Thank you for joining us again, Marlene.
Oh, Erin, it's such a great time when we're together because we get to show people so many amazing things about what's happening in the world of health.
Absolutely, and specifically to do with animals. Now, for those of you who haven't seen Marlene's talk from last year, that is available to view over on our channel on YouTube. It's definitely worth a watch. And Marlene has a whole lot of new and exciting case studies to share with us today, as well as some other really exciting news. So let's start with that exciting news. Tell us a little bit more about SPaws, Marlene.
So, one of the things I found when I was doing a lot of online consultations and helping people during COVID all over the world was that they didn't have access to the type of therapies that we were doing. And one of the things that I target is detoxification, because if we're, say, treating cancer or some other chronic degenerative disease, when you start cleaning the body up, all that waste and bad stuff needs to go somewhere. So if your organs of elimination aren't working, we can actually make our patients more toxic. So here I am doing all this great detoxification work at our office, but then I'm counseling people on things that they should be doing, and they have no access to these things. And of course, salt therapy is one of them. So I thought, well, we got to fix that. We have to have a way for people to conveniently be able to get these modalities, because it is the linchpin on how we heal. So the birthing of SPaws Family Wellness Center came about when I realized we just need to get this out to the masses. So it's a franchise that we're launching next year, which will be 2023. And these will be centers where people can come with their pets. It was always fun because people would say to me, well, I want to get that for me. My animal is having these great responses and I would like to do those for myself. And so this is that model where we can help the pet parent and their two-legged family get healthier. At the same time, the impotence to go there is their pets, and everybody benefits.
Oh, that sounds fantastic, because pets really are part of the family. So why treat them separately? Let's do it all together.
Yeah, it makes it a lot more fun. And it's also teaching people that we have 6 organs of elimination. I would say a majority of the population, even doctors, cannot name the 6 organs of elimination. So as we are educating people, we're helping them to create better lifestyle choices, because we've been taught this model that it's your genes that dictate your health, or it's your pet's genes. And if you got bad genes, well, you're just out of luck. And they even still ask questions on the human side. Does your family have cancer? Has there been links to cancer in your family? And the only link is that you probably still have the same behaviors that they're doing that created the cancer to begin with. So if you have different behaviors, if you stop doing the things that are actually causing the cancer, then there's a good likelihood that you've changed the epigenetics in the body, and you are not as likely to be predisposed to those same outcomes. And the same is for our pets, even more so for the pets, because they aren't making the choices on what they're eating and what their environment looks like. They can only be where we put them, and they can only eat what we give them. So it's even more important for our pets that we become educated and knowledgeable and be able to make better lifestyle choices.
So this is kind of the connection between understanding the biology of the body.
Absolutely. We're not taught as medical professionals, we are not taught to understand the biology of the body. We are taught to see a symptom, which we name it, we blame it, and then we come up with some kind of a pharmaceutical or a treatment to kill it. We want to make it go away. We want to unplug it. I'm going to have a visitor coming in here. Come here, buddy.
I did see one
He
come down
does
the
every
stairs.
year,
Oh, there
right?
we go.
Guys, here's Echo. Yeah, you're going to come over here. Come on, get in the screen. There we go. He's my 20-year-old.
Oh my
And
goodness.
yeah, okay. So I'm going to love you, but I got to keep talking. So So we're taught to name it and blame it and then do some kind of a pharmaceutical or treatment to kill it as if it's the enemy. And it's not the enemy. It's our own cells, our own tissues. It's the cells of our pets, but they've become rogue cells. And I'm talking cancer in particular, but anything that creates inflammation and degeneration. So what we really need to do is understand the biology of the body, understand the terrain of the body. What are the conditions that everybody is living in, including us, because there's all these other organisms that are living inside of us. In fact, there's more of them than there are us cells. And we actually, it's in my presentation, so I won't give it all away, but we really rely on this microbiome of organisms to be able to help us function. And because it's really on my heart recently, I really want to mention the mitochondria. So most people know the mitochondria is the powerhouses of the cell, and it is, but it's also our signaling mechanism. So they actually produce neurochemicals. They're actually the brain power that coordinates what all happens in the body. So when the mitochondria, which live in every tissue of our body, and they're specific for each tissue of our body. So those that live in the brain, they do special things specific to the brain, or the kidneys, or the liver, or the gut, or in our conversation today, the lungs. So the mitochondria that live in the lungs actually are the ones that signal the production of surfactants, those polyglycans that help to keep our lungs expanded so that we can actually breathe and get oxygen into our lungs and into our tissues. So they're very specific, and they have a lot of responsibility to not only produce energy, but to also create the communication and the linkage between everything else in the body. They're communicating with every cell. So my definition of cancer is actually a deficiency, a toxicity. So it's a deficiency of essential nutrients, a toxicity of things that the body can't get rid of, and mitochondrial dysfunction. It's where the mitochondria can't do their job. So now whoever they were communicating to becomes a rogue cell because they're not getting the message of what to do. So, just imagine you have this big army and you have all these units in the army, and one unit is out on field patrol, and all of a sudden, all their communication is cut off. So they have nobody instructing them on what to do. So their only thought is, well, I might as well keep surviving. I might as well grow and help myself because nobody else is out here helping me. And that's what rogue cells do, is they've lost their ability to communicate. No one's telling them to go through programmed cell death. And so they just keep growing out of control. Does that make sense?
It does. It really emphasizes the importance of connection as well.
Huge.
So alongside your SPaws, this franchise, you are also offering or providing some courses both for pet parents and veterinarians. Perhaps you could share us a bit about that too.
Knowledge is power. But there's two things that I have discovered that make people fail at things. One is a lack of knowledge. If you don't know what you don't know, then you can't make good decisions. So one of the first things I wanted to do was solve that. So I've got an online program for pet parents that actually teaches them the biology of their pet's body so that they can make good informed decisions. Even if their veterinarian isn't trained that way, they could go to their veterinarian and say, I want to have these kind of tests run because it's going to tell us whether or not my pet is deficient in the essential nutrients that the body needs to do its job, or has toxicity, which we need to address, or is there mitochondrial dysfunction? And so I have this list of tests for the owners to understand and be able to go to their veterinarian and say, I think we need to do these, and these. And then it also teaches them about detoxification, about species appropriate diet, about mitochondrial health, right? Because I just said that the crux of this whole model is dependent on the mitochondria. And there's a recent discovery in the last couple of years of something called the cell danger response mode. And that's where when the body is under tremendous stress or attack or in danger, and that could even just be from our perceived thoughts. So, there are people that go around feeling like they are a victim to everything that happens in the world and they have no control. They're just doomed. And those people will go into the cell danger response mode because they're sending neurochemical signals to the mitochondria, which are living in all these tissues, that say, we are in super bad danger. You need to try to survive. And so the mitochondria literally go into a bunker and they quit producing a lot of energy. They go from aerobic metabolism to anaerobic metabolism. Aerobic metabolism, they make tons of ATP. They make, which is energy, and they're using oxygen. But when they go into the cell danger response mode, they're like hunkering down and they're making very little energy. They're using an anaerobic cycle, not oxygen. And so all that dysfunction starts to go downhill. So now we don't have enough energy. We don't have the signaling and the instructions happening. And so people that are trying to get healthy physically can't, even if they're doing all the right things, even if we're treating our animals with all the right things, if they go into that cell danger response mode, they can't respond. So it's super important that we help understand that we as the pet parent need to be conscious of our thoughts and our behaviors, because our animals are in training to what we are giving off. So if we, the pet parent, are doom and gloom and victim, then we're sending off these neurochemicals, which our pets are in training to. And all they know is, oh my gosh, there's some horrible danger out there. We're in trouble, because that's the signal that they're getting. Or if you have those individuals, the cup is always half full. They're always positive. Everything is happening for me and for my highest, best good. I just have to find the blessing in this confusion and turmoil and this discomfort. Then you're sending off a totally different type of neurochemical signal, which goes internally to their bodies and communicates to their mitochondria and their cells. And of course, our pets are in training to that. So if this audience gets nothing else out of this conversation, it's about fix your belief systems, improve your attitude, and truly find somebody who can help you. If you are the doomer gloomer and the victim person, then take ownership of that and find a practitioner who can help you shift that into a more positive attitude. Because I'll even tell you that cancer cases that we treat in pets, the ones that we heal are the pet parents that are really positive, and the ones that we have real challenges with are the ones where their pet parent is just stuck and frozen in all of this fear and horrible energy. So super important.
Oh, that totally makes sense as well. I mean,
Yeah.
even just, human to human, the negativity of someone can really rub off on you. So it's obvious that it would happen with pets as well.
Yeah.
And in another discussion we've had with Ariel Jarvis, she talks about the 12 seconds of boosting the love hormone and the happy hormones, and that 12 seconds of giving a hug to someone. It doesn't actually have to be a human, it can be a pet too. And if you think that your pet is acting in the same way and receiving it, just think how much happier they are receiving that 12 seconds of heart to heart as well.
Yeah, and they give unconditional love.
They do, don't they?
So if we ever have to figure out what's the model for understanding unconditional love, it's our pets. When we're upset and we're crying or emotional or distraught, who is it that keeps coming over? I want to be petted and touched. And then we reach our hands out, like I'm constantly touching him and petting him. And you just feel lighter and you feel happier. You feel like the world isn't so dense. I don't think that's an accident. I think that is a very intentional relationship that they offer to us, this unconditional love and helping to ground us into the moment. That's another thing. We have a tendency to be either living in our past or living in our future. And, that whole fear is, for me, it's an acronym called Future Events Appearing Real. Well, if you are constantly focused on what could happen in the future that's negative, you're literally creating it. So why don't we just decide that we are going to have a positive outcome? You don't have to tell the universe how you're going to get there. Just set the intention. that at the end of this experience, we're all going to come out way better. And then allow that energy to carry you through. And it's magical to see how things unfold. And then you look around, you go, did that really happen? Did I really hear that? Did I really see that? And you just relish. And the more you do that, the more you'll have that trust and faith that the world really is here to support us. And you really are creating everything. And once you own that and you just accept it, and then to me, it's like a computer game, or not even a computer game. You have files on your computer, right? And you can't look at your computer from across the room and say, delete, delete, delete. You have to actually pull that file up, and you have to decide, do I want to keep that file on my hard drive, or do I want to get rid of it? And if you choose to get rid of it and you hit the delete button, Erin, what is the first thing that the computer will say back to you?
Are you sure you want to delete it?
No one misses that. Everybody gets the right answer. Well, our computer brain does the same thing. So your subconscious mind, when you choose to delete a program that you're hardwired to, it asks you, whoa, wait a minute. I don't think I have a replacement program for that. Let me think. And I'd rather be in the old program and hardwired to it, even if it's not good, than to jump off into an abyss. So once we recognize that this program is no longer serving us, and oh my gosh, here's another clincher, that we are hardwired to these negative experiences. So let's say, well, I'll tell you a real example. My next door neighbor, who we used to be really good friends with, stole my trailer. And I went over there and I said, that wasn't yours to take. And my ex-husband had kind of worked it out, but it wasn't his to give either. So he brought it back, and then it disappears again. And I go back over and he goes, oh yeah, I'm fixing it. Well, he never fixed it. He stole it.
Oh my goodness.
And my emotion at the time that I realized that he had really taken it and he really wasn't bringing it back was betrayal. But it took me 3 days of being angry and mad and really just into that emotion before I finally said, no, wait a minute. What is the emotion that this is bringing up to me? It's not about the trailer. It's about the emotion. And the emotion was betrayal. And so I did an exercise that allowed me to break that hardwired connection to betrayal, because newsflash, that wasn't the first time I ever felt that emotion. I had many experiences in my lifetime of betrayal. And so it was just coming up again and again and again, because your GPS is saying, here's your sign. And then you go past it without fixing it. And then here's your sign again, and you go right past it. You're living in it instead of fixing it. So once I deleted betrayal from my energetic field and I rewired to something more serving, I've never had that experience again where somebody betrayed me. Isn't that cool?
Yeah. And if you want to find out a little bit more about how you can get back to finding those emotions, we do actually have another talker, Natalie Swanson, who is a hypnotherapist. And she talks a little bit more about the science and going back and finding that kind of key and critical moment. So that might be worth a watch if you're interested in finding a bit more about that.
How divine. I had no idea.
No.
Right? I don't know who, but look how perfectly that weaved into, and that was really not one of the things I was intending to talk about. But when you just allow the conversation to go for the highest and best good of everybody, then that conversation comes out. And then I find out that you actually have somebody on the conference who's going to be talking about emotional release. Wow.
Well, this whole conference is about connection, and everything really is connected. And as we talk to more and more speakers and presenters, it's incredible just how much things are interwoven into each other. So with these courses, you've got the pet parents and the pet veterinarians, and there's also a free ebook as well that you offer out there as well. And I think you might have the link to that at the end of your presentation.
I do.
So I'm just going to hand it over to you to show us some of the exciting things that you've been dealing with over the past year.
Awesome. Okay, here we go.
And hopefully my screen sharing will work.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get this thing loaded. I know you can still hear me.
That's good. We know you haven't
So,
disappeared then.
no, okay, so I got to go to share screen.
And one thing you might be interested to know, the school that my son goes to, they actually have a therapy dog that comes in to the classes, or the children go to see the dog for some one-on-one time if they're actually struggling with some of their emotions, or something bad may have happened, or they're feeling upset. And the difference that it makes, like even through my son's eyes, he's able to tell me how much happier the children are coming back from those sessions. So it's just lovely to see these kind of things, interacting with pets.
I think it's the time that we are in the universe where I think it's the time for us to be there. I think this is the time for us to clean up all the garbage that we've carried and raise the vibration of ourselves, our pets, and the planet, so that we can really go into a lovely area where we're all thriving. All right, can you see my screen?
We can indeed. Thank you.
Okay, so look at that. We talked about that, where that is the model of unconditional love. Our pets always think we're wonderful, and as it should be. And we should take that example and apply that to our lives as well. So we've, this summit and all the other summits, we all hear about all the science and all the data and all the things that are going on, and that's fantastic. But let's see it in real action. And that's what my talk is going to be focused on, not so much the science, but the actual cases. And these are the 5 steps to healing that we covered last year. Number 1, you got to stop doing the behaviors that are causing the problem. Number 2, you have to make sure you're supplying all the essential nutrients. We have to heal the gut so that all those toxins aren't making it into the body. Look at all those little organisms there in the gut. We need to be taking care of them. Then we have to go through detoxification of the 6 organs of elimination, which are the kidney, the colon, the lungs, the liver, the skin, and the lymphatics. And the lymphatics is really coming into its own these days. And then number 5 is the mitochondria. We talked about that in the beginning, how we need the most and the healthiest and the most productive mitochondria in order to not only produce enough energy to run our bodies, but also to make sure we have good communication. And number 6, which I don't have on here, is clearing those trapped emotions. I'm going to just quickly mention food, because in number 1, we talk about why species appropriate diet is so important. And as we go through this, processed food, whether it's for us or our animals, is enzymatically dead. There's no enzymes to aid in the digestion of that food. So the person or pet can only use their pancreas, which has a finite amount, and then you run out, and then you start having a lot of problems, where a balanced raw diet has enzymes already in the tissue. That's what causes stuff to rot, is the enzymes break it down. And then processed foods will always have high carbohydrate counts, like 40 to 60%. I think most people know sugar is not good for us. And it's certainly not good for our pets, because they were designed to eat a diet that had less than 1% carbohydrates, particularly the cats. And then there's no moisture in the food, which means that a lot of the moisture that these animals were supposed to get from their diet isn't. A raw diet has 70% moisture. This is even more important for our cats, who already come from the desert. They're already a more dehydrated species, so they have to get a majority of their water from their diet. And then hormones, chemicals, pesticides, genetically modified ingredients, all of the toxins that are in processed foods or non-organic. They're not grass-fed, grass-finished foods. Of course, we want to make sure that it's the healthiest food. Remember that old expression, you are what you eat?
Yep.
You are what you eat, you digest, you assimilate, and you eliminate. That's the real definition. And then I'm going to just mention that processed foods they have little to no vitamin D, because carnivores, which are the dogs and our cats that we're talking about, can only get vitamin D from their protein. This is extremely important, because vitamin D plays a major role in our innate immune system. That's the immune system that runs inside our body without our conscious control, that keeps us safe. So if the animal that they are eating in that food, if it's even protein in the food, because a lot of these diets don't even have any, they have fake food. So if that animal was not grazing out in pastures all of its life, then that cow or the herbivore isn't going to have vitamin D in their muscle. And so therefore the carnivore isn't going to get it. So dogs do not get vitamin D from the sun like we do, or we can. So we want to make sure they have adequate vitamin D. We mentioned in our earlier conversation how important the microbiome is. Well, we're more them than they are us. They're a little world inside of us. There are 10 times more microbes than our animal cells, and there's 100 to 1 more mitochondria than us. That is not an accident. And mitochondria are actually little bacteria that over the evolution of time became incorporated into our body. So we are like their planet. We are their host. We have a lot of them concentrated in the colon, the microbes we're talking about. And it's the diversity of the microbiome that is so critical to our well-being. There's supposed to be over 20 to 30,000 different microbial species. There are trillions of viruses that make up the virome. They're not our enemy. And when we change our environment, when we do epigenetic changes, let's say you eat a really bad meal or you feed your animal a bunch of toxins and some processed foods, within 40 seconds, Erin, we are changing the communication in that animal's microbiome and mitochondria to send signals that there has been an intruder. There's damage and we need to go fix it. And then imagine that's happening every bite of every meal, every day of that animal's life.
Wow.
Is there any wonder that dogs right now have the highest rate of cancer of any mammal on the planet? And cats are running right behind them. So dogs are 1 out of 1.65 and cats are 1 out of 3. I think that is a highly underreported number in cats. I think it's much higher than that. So the stresses that we're under, our day-to-day lifestyle is affecting our animals and us, but we're talking about animals in my conversation. So what you feed them, the stresses that you're under, the toxins that they're exposed to can change your microbial populations in matters of seconds. And the reason why this diversity is so important is because we need the functional genes from those organisms. So a functional gene is the gene that is coded to tell your biological processes how to work. Humans have 22 to 24,000 functional genes. So it sounds like a lot. An earthworm has 38 to 40,000 functional genes. So from a genomic perspective, we are half as genetically sophisticated as an earthworm, right? That's a little humbling for you. So what makes us so special is that we have learned to have the symbiotic relationship with these millions and trillions of organisms that allow us to share their functional genes. So this comes back to how important it is to have them there. They are not the enemy. We need to stop doing the anti-life, the antimicrobials, the antifungals, the anti-whatevers, and we need to start focusing on the terrain of the body for our pets and for ourselves and for Mother Earth, because we're killing Mother Earth in the same way that we're killing our bodies and we're killing our pets' bodies. So this is really going to be something that is not an option in the extreme near future if we expect to survive on this planet. As we lose these microbes, we're losing large amounts of our own functionality. And that's not a good thing because we're facing extinction of our microbiome, which if we extinct them, we're gone. We can't live without them. So this is, if everybody wants to take a screenshot of this, this is a way that we could live our life for ourselves and for our pets, where we eat a species appropriate diet. It has to be grass-fed, grass-finished, organic, if it's plant-based, organic, and then including fermented foods every day. For our animals, it could be sauerkraut. They don't have to eat the vegetable. They just need to get the juice because we're trying to get all those wonderful microbes in. It could be kefir because that's a fermented milk product. But I don't use kimchi for animals. That's a little too spicy. But the point is that we're wanting to get real food real fermented organisms into the body so that we can start helping to support that microbiome. A lot of people think it's going to be okay if they just take a probiotic that has, I don't know, 30,000 microbes, right? Well, that becomes a bully. Remember, diversity is extremely important. So flooding your body with the same microbes over and over and over and over again, they become the predominant ones, but they don't allow the other species to flourish. So we need to heal the permeability of the gut. We don't want leaky gut because that allows things to come in that shouldn't. We want to seek the root cause of an illness. Don't just, so many people, they just go, oh, give me an antibiotic, let me go on our way, because we've been trained by the allopathic world that that's the solution to everything. And you know, probably 80% of the antibiotics that are prescribed are wrongly prescribed. Antibiotics don't treat virus. They don't treat viruses. They don't treat fungal infections. They are specific for bacteria, and they're not specific to a particular bacteria. So when you take an antibiotic, you're wiping out pathogens and your good guys. The next one is getting outside every day, exercise and movement. I think all of us have, gosh, you have to live under a rock to not know how important that is. And then enjoying meaningful relationships with people, animals, and plants. There you go. You already mentioned the importance of hugs and connection. And we saw during COVID, we saw how many
you're
ill
right.
effects that isolation caused. And I think we're going to be seeing the effects of that isolation on our young population for many, many years to come. And then my last one is the most important, and that is practicing gratitude and staying in joy as much as possible.
That
So
one
let's get
about
into some of these.
enjoying meaningful moments, I think that could also, you could take that a little bit further into technology as well, and make sure that, you know, the children and yourselves don't spend all day just glued to screens, and that interaction with people through a screen still isn't the same as interaction in person.
Oh, thank you for bringing that up. That is so on point. So I'm going to share some cases with you that are this year's cases. We always have great cases. So this is Daisy. She was a 2011 model. This was this year. So Daisy is 11 years old, female spayed English bulldog. She had fallen in the pool, and the owner wasn't aware of the fact that she'd fallen in the pool. So, you know, these little flat nosed dogs, she's splashing the water, trying to get herself over to the steps, and in the process had inhaled quite a bit of water. So when she got out, when the owner discovered her, she watched her for the first hour and thought, okay, maybe she's okay. And then all of a sudden she started vomiting up frank blood. So she brought her in immediately. We went ahead and got x-rays done, and she was really having a hard time breathing. And so we could see that she had some aspiration pneumonia going on. And I don't think I can show you my pointer, but on the left-hand side, there's very little lung tissue. It's all kind of white and splotchy. You really just don't see, the lung should be beautiful and black. And on the right-hand picture, she's laying on her, the first picture, she's laying on her side. The second picture, she's laying on her back. And you can see just little tiny bits of air on the outer edges, but certainly not enough to help her breathe well. So we used their salt room immediately, and we did ozone, and we did frequency therapy and vibration and lymphatic therapy, just trying to move this excess fluid out of her body. And then we took x-rays that night, and interestingly, they didn't look a lot better, but she was breathing 100% better. She was relaxed, and she wasn't coughing up blood. So even in her first treatment, she clinically felt better, even though radiographically it didn't show that much change. And then we went 24 hours. I think you can appreciate on the right-hand picture that she's starting to get more clearing of that fluid. So we kept doing our treatments. Each day she was getting brighter, she was eating better, she was more active. I don't have a picture of her in the salt booth, but here she is on our vibration machine. In the middle, she's getting her lymphatic therapy. And so she's getting better. And then on day 3, now you can see a dramatic difference in her lungs. So the clinical improvement came before the radiographic improvement. But she went 3 days in a row doing therapies, and look at that remarkable difference. And I attribute salt therapy to a large part of that. And so there's our beautiful Daisy at 11 years young.
Oh, wonderful. What a story.
Yeah, so this is Bentley. He is a male neutered Labrador retriever, had just turned 5 years old. And I met him in February. He had started getting blisters on his nose, as you can see from the picture. And the veterinarian that they were going to put a steroid cream on it. It made it worse. They got a biopsy in April and it came back as squamous cell carcinoma. So they went to a veterinary oncologist who in less than 30 seconds told them that the only option they had was to remove his nose. And they, in the owner's words, they ran out of that office and they found me, and I started working with him in May. So keep that in mind, May. On the left-hand side of the back of his tongue, on the roof of his mouth, you can see he had a little lesion forming inside of his mouth. And in 2 months, the oral lesion was gone. The cancer had resolved in the mouth. And then on the left is the worst that his nose had gotten to. And then I'm not going to show you all the pictures in between because we don't have time. But from June 17 till 2 days ago, look at his nose. His cancer has resolved.
You can
Now,
even
we
see
did
in his eyes as well. He looks so much better.
Oh my gosh, he's the happiest dog. And no, we did a lot more than salt therapy, obviously, but he did go into the salt booth every day, which had an impact both topically on the lesion and of course, his lungs being one of the organs of elimination, and the mitochondria that are in the lungs, we want every organ to be working at its maximum capacity so that his body can heal. And obviously we did a lot of different things on him, but look at that outcome.
That's
And he
amazing.
continues to heal. So where it's pink right now, that is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And probably within another 2 months, you won't tell that there is any pink there. It'll all be repigmented.
Wow, I'd love to see the photo in a couple of months if you're happy to share that.
I will.
Thank
Remind
you.
me. Okay, so this is Canella. She was a little 4-month-old bully that had gone to the ER because she had all this snot coming out of her nose. She had labored breathing. They put her on an antibiotic, no x-rays, no culture, no blood work, and she got worse. So she came to me, and when we x-rayed her on presentation, you can see that the left hand is the day that she presented. And you can see that on where her heart's supposed to be in the middle, you can't see the heart and you can't see anything to the front of it, to the left of it. And she has very little aeration in her lungs. And then on the right, that's her post picture 3 days later. And you can see how much more lung tissue is now expanded. And same thing with her. Immediately, she was starting to feel better and eating and breathing better and being more playful like a puppy. So presentation, this is the ventral dorsal view where she's laying on her back. On the left was when she presented. On the right was 3 days later. It's remarkable how quickly she got better. And we did not use antibiotics.
Wow.
And this is Dottie. She was pregnant and she had a C-section performed by her veterinarian. And somehow she was on a heating pad post-surgery. She was, I'm sure, very wet. And she suffered these 3rd-degree burns on her belly from the heating pad. And she went from the veterinarian to an ER. The ER sends me lots of these trauma cases. And so she came to me, and what I want to point out is everywhere that is that kind of brownish black looking tissue is where it's going to die. You can actually, if you look at the top of the picture, you can see a demarcation line. It looks like a little squiggly river line that's moving, and that's where all this tissue was going. It was going to die, and it encroached on her suture line. So if that tissue would have died, her suture line would have opened as well. So these are just the pictures moving along. Oops, let me go back. So on the left was the day she presented, and I did a little quick video kind of showing all the different lesions. And then 4 days later, you can see that the area has shrunk. This is 4 days. The area that was burned is now shrinking down. Now we use salt room every day, hyperbaric oxygen, lots of other things happening, but look at the remarkable difference. And then 2 weeks, you can see the suture line held. We were able to shrink the dead tissue away from it. So we only lost a little bit. And then this was on the left, 2 weeks, 3 more days, 3 more days. And we just see this healing right in. And there she was, fully healed. that little piece also filled in as well. And that's little Dottie on the right.
Oh,
So interestingly, she was very painful when she came in. She felt
okay.
miserable, and she was like little Jaws. We had to keep the phone on because we couldn't get near her. She'd bite you. And
Oh,
then after the first week, she was so much more comfortable. She just followed us around the office and loved us.
oh.
So this is Ellie, 14-year-old female spayed Havanese, and she had gone to her veterinarian because exercise intolerance, chronic coughing. The owner felt like she had no quality of life. The referral center correctly diagnosed her with collapsing trachea, and what they didn't do was a full workup. So it turns out she was also hypothyroid. She had a high urine pH, high white blood cell count, lots of inflammation, urinary crystals. And so the bottom line is this dog had a ton of inflammation, and nobody had addressed the root cause. She was grossly overweight and she was grossly overweight and just wasn't being supported, didn't have the essential nutrients. She had a lot of toxicity. So we went through almost 5 weeks of her coming in 4 days a week, salt room, of course, lymphatic therapy and frequency therapy and good diet and detoxification of all organs of elimination. And at the end of that 6 weeks, her owner said she was like a new dog. She actually lost a dog in pounds and she had her quality of life back, minimal coughing, running around, playing, and just acting like a puppy again.
Oh.
And the reason I brought her into this was because most dogs who have collapsing trachea are euthanized because they're told there's nothing more that can be done for them and they're not going to get any better. And it's really hard to watch them because they're suffering. They're coughing so much and they can't get air. And so it's miserable to watch, but there is something that can be done. We just have to start treating the root cause. And this is Isis. She's 8.5 years old, an English bulldog. She's had chronic skin problems, chronic history of relapsing pneumonia. And not only did she come through with all of our therapies, but she comes in every week now, and we just do a little bit of something, of course, salt room and some hyperbaric oxygen and lymphatic therapy. She's on an excellent diet, excellent supplementation, and she's doing really well. So here is her, and this is Isis and Ellie. They came in that particular day at the same time, and so we just got a nice little cute picture of both of them on our frequency vibration plate. And they were just so cute. Isis really did not care if Ellie was there or not.
Do the dogs like the vibration plate?
They love it. They will
Ah.
jump once they understand it because it's vibration and frequency. It's like a little mini Rife machine in there. So they learn to really enjoy the entrainment of those frequencies.
And I just have to ask, what's rectal oxygen therapy?
The rectal ozone is where
Ozone, yes.
we take ozone, and ozone can be administered in many different ways, but one of the easiest and most cost-effective ways is to put it into the rectum. We just put a little catheter up the bum, and then we just shoot the gas into the rectum, and it's absorbed.
Oh,
So
wow.
ozone, we could have a whole hours and hours of lectures on ozone, but definitely one of our favorite therapies as well. So this was Bam Bam. I don't have a picture of Bam Bam in this presentation, so I apologize, but Bam Bam is an adorable whippet, just beautiful. And she'd gone out in the yard and all of a sudden couldn't breathe. So she was gagging and had all this phlegm, and the owner just had no idea what happened. And when she brought her in on the left-hand side, you can see the x-ray. And if you look at the triangle on the left side of the dog's body, you can see that there's all kinds of fluffy stuff in there. So she had aspirated something in the yard, and instead of swallowing it, it went down into her lungs. So I don't know what it was that she aspirated, but she was under a lot of respiratory distress. So we did our similar therapies. Of course, salt booth was huge in this. And within 3 days, look at the lungs all cleared up.
Amazing.
Yeah, when I'm doing this to a live audience, everybody's clapping. Woo!
Yeah.
In each case. All right, this is Chikari. She is a 10-year-old female spayed Rhodesian Ridgeback, and she had been diagnosed at a referral center with squamous cell carcinoma in the nose. So you can see on the left-hand side, it's a very erosive cancer. This is the same cancer that Bentley had.
Right.
But Bentley had it on the muzzle. She had it inside of her nostril. And we treated her with all of our modalities, 16 weeks, cancer-free.
Amazing.
Yeah, pretty cool. So that's all the presentations I have for you today, but this is my contact. The drmarlenesiegel.com at the top is my main hub site where people can go there and find everything else. The holistichealingvet.com is the free ebook. My transformingvetmedicine.com is where they can get the courses. And then after they take the course, I am available for additional consultation. And then we have our own raw food and supplement company. And not because I had this big desire to go making dog food, but because we couldn't find companies that would consistently make a product that would support my pets because, you know, number one, remember, stop polluting the body. So my cancer patients and my chronic degenerative cases cannot afford to have one more drop of toxin come into the body that we have control over. There's a lot we can't control, but the things that we do have control over, we got to make sure we don't put that in there. And then on the right-hand side, we see SPaws. We are getting into an entire line of essential oils for people and pets, personal body care products, and also home cleaning products. And then on the bottom right is my veterinary hospital.
Fantastic. You have definitely been busy.
Yes. All right. I'm going to stop sharing my screen
Fantastic.
and give this back to you. And there
say
we
hello
go.
on video.
All right.
Oh, welcome back.
back.
Fantastic.
All right.
I absolutely love talking to you, Marlene. You just have phenomenal knowledge, and everything you do is so inspiring. And I'm sure there's a lot of listeners out there today, whether they be pet owners or those interested in helping pets from a veterinarian point of view, that will be inspired for sure. So I do take this opportunity to get in touch with Marlene. You have her details there. But thank you so much for joining us again this year. It has been an absolute pleasure.
I look forward to our 10th and 15th and 20th anniversaries.
Me too. And I just look forward to next year as well, hearing what's happened between now and then. So I would also love to see some of your franchises over here in the UK and across the globe. That would be fantastic.
So there you go.
Mm.
I do have a couple. I have one going into Costa Rica. I have another one going, I think, into Australia, South Africa.
Fantastic.
So yeah, we have people spread all over the place that really have the heart and the passion, and they want to see this healthcare come to people and pets. And it needs to be healthcare. Yes, we can treat disease, and that's fantastic, but really the crux, the linchpin, the real thing that we have to focus on is healthcare, not broke care. And when we can start shifting our attitude and not wasting our money on insurances and on all the therapies that are out there to treat the disease. There is no disease, there is dis-ease. It means the body's not in balance. So when we start owning our health and our pets' health, and we start making those decisions, starting with what are we eating, what are we drinking, what are we breathing, what are we putting on our skin, you know, it's a shame that our governments don't start off with helping to regulate the food industry so that we had healthier food and healthier water. You know, just right there, we would change the world. But they're not having that conversation. They want to come up with jabs that they make people believe that that's going to keep them safe. No, what's going to keep you safe is making better health choices, supporting the terrain of the body, and supporting Mother Earth in the process.
Thank you so much. Perfectly said.
Thank you, Erin, for all you do to get this message out. I know it's a lot of work. So guys, make sure you support her and let's make this happen.
Thank you.
Bye.